All right, guys, I'm going to walk you through the process of making a square sequence for your social media Bechtel spot. Now, normally sequences are rectangular. They are in 16 by 9 is the dimensions that we're used to. But we know that square video typically takes up more of a timeline if somebody's scrolling through a news feed or a Twitter feed. It also requires them, or usually has them engage with it more. They're more likely to watch the whole spot. So we're going to make a square video, even though most of the social media networks, or all the social media networks, can support rectangular. We're going to make square. How do we do that? It's pretty easy, but it does require some extra steps and some extra thinking in terms of how your spot's going to come together. I'm going to go here to the new sequence button here in Premiere. I'm going to hit this button and choose sequence. Now, there's not going to be a sequence in my presets that's going to be available for me that's going to be square. So what am I going to do? I'm going to come right up here to the word settings. I'm going to click that. And on editing mode, I'm going to change it to custom. That allows me to change the shape and the size of my sequence. Now, right now it's 1440 pixels wide by 1080 pixels high. It's a 16 by 9 ratio. So I'm going to change this first number to 1080. And now it's going to be what's called a 4 by 3 ratio. And the reason why is because the pixels are not exactly square. So I'm going to change this to square pixels. Now all of a sudden you can look and see my ratio is 1:1, meaning that it is just as high as it is wide. Everything else I can leave the same. I'm going to call this social media spot. And I'm going to hit OK. Now all of a sudden you'll notice that my sequence is perfectly square. Now as you're working with this sequence, I'm going to go ahead and drag a clip out to it. See if I can find that golfer. There he is. First thing I do when I add my first clip, the clip I'm adding is not square, so it's going to say, hey, do you want to change your sequence? And I'm going to say, no, I don't want to change it to a rectangular shape. I want to keep it square. I realize that they're not the same shape. So I'm going to keep existing settings. Now, with every shot that you put into this sequence, you probably composed it for a 16 by 9 frame. So you want to sort of think about and consider how you're going to fix this. We're going to go back to the Effect Controls menu. Now this is not bad, but you'll notice he's really far over here to the right. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go to Effect Controls, and I'm going to slide him over in my position. And so I'm going to basically reframe my shots to where they become more interesting in the square format as opposed to the rectangular format. So I'm going to add that shot in. Now, I use the whole shot. Normally I would change the in and out points. But now you'll notice that the interesting part of the shot is happening right here in the middle of the frame. I've gotten rid of all this on the side. So you then have to basically decide what's the most interesting part of the shot. For this is pretty much exactly where it needs to be. I can click on it and I can change its position just a little bit. And now all of a sudden it works in that square format. So your goal then is to add your shots, and not only add them, but also look and see what's the most interesting portion of the video. How do I move the video around to feature that in the smaller frame that I have? Once you've done that, you're going to go File, Export Media just like usual, and you just want to make sure as you edit or as you export that it just says Match Source. That way it'll stay in that square format. If you don't see the big square here, something's gone wrong. Double check and make sure it says Match Source. And it should say that, but just be careful and make sure that it does. If you do that, then you'll have this beautiful square image that we can put onto our social media feeds, and it will play and take up a lot of people's timelines and make them engage and watch it and be really interested in it. That's how you're going to build your social media spot in a square format.